Digimon partner swaps. It has been quite a while since we've done this series, but I figured it's a new year and I want to try and come back to it. And there are some seasons that are pretty much impossible without custom art, but one I just realized we definitely could do is Digimon Adventure 2020. Oh, hey paisanos, what are you doing in my kitchen cupboard? What am I doing in the kitchen cupboard? Well, you know, new year, new me, but all this Digimon talk's got me thinking back to Saturday morning cartoons, and whenever I'd watch Saturday morning cartoons, I used to love doing it with a bowl of cereal, but well, upon reflection, all those cereals that I ate as a kid were not so good for me, full of sugar and all sorts of other stuff. And that's why I was really happy to be reached out to by today's sponsor, Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon comes in 4 flavors, the frosted, the cocoa, the fruity, and the peanut butter. And as you can see, they sent me a lot of cereal. Magic Spoon is cereal reinvented, with 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs in each serving, with each serving only being 140 calories, which is perfect for me. They're also keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. This fruity flavor is my favorite one of the bunch. So good. So start your new year off with Magic Spoon. Click the link below to grab a variety pack of cereal and try it today. And when you do that, please make sure to use my promo code Karn EX at checkout to get $5 off any order. Or go to magicspoon.com/Karn EX. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product that it is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So click the link below and use the code Karn EX for $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Karn EX to save $5 today. What is up, digital companions? My name is Karn EX and welcome back to another video. And if it's not welcome back, come on man, subscribe. You're letting the side down, you're letting the team down. We'll never go to nationals at this rate. And yes, Digimon Adventure 2020 partner swaps. I know the last one we did was Digimon Data Squad. We haven't done Frontier, Cross Wars, or Appmon, but there's really, in my mind, no way to do partner swaps with those unless we do custom art. So we're gonna save that for later into the year, and I've got some ambitious plans. And Adventure 2020 is actually a very different season from 1999. Go figure, for better or worse in some people's minds. But something that is interesting is that there is lots more evolutions in this season. Digimon getting secondary evolutions at many stages. Some people getting access to Armor Digimon, or question mark Digimon. And so while the swaps in this video may be similar to the 1999 swaps that I did, there's also going to be a lot more new stuff and obviously new Digimon along the way. So the first pair that I'm going to be swapping are Sora and Koushiro. I chose these two to swap because they are very much so Taichi's left and right hand in 2020, and both spend probably the most time together outside of with Taichi in the real world. So for Sora's Tentomon, I have chosen the champion to be Hoodymon. This is because I wanted there to be a Digimon that could fly. A huge part of Birdramon in Digimon Adventure 2020 is carrying the kids in a basket, so I wanted a Digimon that could similarly fly and be believably strong enough to carry a few kids. I'm picturing this being a slightly bigger Hoodymon because Adventure 2020 went all over the place with scale of Digimon anyway, so I think it's fine if this Hoodymon is bigger than the one we saw in Hacker's Memory. Hoodymon also introduces some femininity and goes a very different way, while keeping the bug aesthetic that is important to the Tentomon evolution line. Then it will become the Eosmon Perfect level. I think Eosmon is perfectly on the table here. If it's a partner swap happening in 2020, 2021, Eosmon is definitely being created or already created at this point, and works quite nicely as a Hoodymon evolution, but will then finally become Junomon. I did consider Digimon like Eosmon Ultimate, and even Tyrant Kabuterimon, but I think Junomon works surprisingly well. First of all, if you look at the bottom of her cape here, she has the same visual hexagon pattern that Eosmon has. It's not an intentional connection, but it actually works really well. And according to her reference book, she stands upon the battlefield as a lover and defender of Jupitermon, having a profound love of Jupitermon and personality overflowing with affection, which is super interesting because it ties into Sora's Crest of Love, but Junomon's lover, Jupitermon, is extremely lightning and electricity themed, which is of course a big element also associated with the Tentomon line. So we get love, we get hexagons, and we get electricity by proxy. Then moving over to Koushiro, that of course means that he gets Biomon. And I will admit I did struggle here because his Kabuterimon, Atla Kabuterimon, and Heracles Kabuterimon more so fulfill kind of like battle flying roles. It's more about their individual personality at any level rather than what each evolution stage fulfills, but I have chosen to make Koushiro's Biomon digivolve to Jazzardmon. It is still a bird but is encased in metal and has a very kind of technological feel to it, which ties very nicely into Koushiro and his Crest of Knowledge, and its kind of stabilizers on its feet remind me a little little bit of speakers, which would tie in nicely into the Sound Birdmon episode of Digimon Adventure 2020, which did prominently feature Koushiro and Kabuterimon. Perhaps even the Sound Birdmon attack being the influence that Biyomon needs to become Jazzedmon. And then the evolution line is pretty standard, with Jazzedmon becoming Jazzerichmon and finally Metallic Dramon. So that our next set of swaps are going to be Joe and Mimi. I chose these because they're still more of the oddballs of the group and have more episodes, I would say, where they're kind of doing their own thing than they do episodes where they're working directly with Yamato or Taichi. So for Mimi's Gomamon, I'm going to have her champion be Gesomon. We didn't really see it in Adventure 2020, and it does have the same kind of bulk or size feel as Togemon, plus according to its reference book, it has a special move that is a barrage of attacks that capitalizes on its many legs. Kind of fun that Togemon is so punching focused, so Mimi's Gomamon's champion would be very leg attack focused. It's a nice little inverse. But of course in Adventure 2020, Mimi's Palmon can also become Ponchomon, due to disruption from sound from Etamon and Volcamon, and also a dim card, and maybe even Patamon was involved somehow. So I wanted to think of an armored Digimon that would work as a Gomamon evolution using the Digi-Egg of Sincerity or the Digimental of Purity, and still tied into some of Mimi's personality, and maybe even reference something from 1999. And that is why Mimi's Gomamon's question mark evolution is going to be Frogmon. Visually, I think it works very well from Gomamon as a Digimental of Purity evolution, combining that aquatic amphibian element with the crest. But also, as my boy Hunter pointed out, frogs are often associated in media with music, the frog chorus and things like that, which would mean that Frogmon would still work nicely for the very musical themed episode that Ponchomon debuted in. Then for the ultimate, I did struggle a little bit, but ultimately went with Captain Hookmon. My logic is that Mimi's Palmon presents quite feminine. We can have the Digimon gender debate until the cows come home. But Joe's Gomamon presents very masculine, so I don't think just by having Mimi as a partner, it would suddenly become a feminine Digimon. So I looked for masculine aquatic Digimon that was still humanoid, to reflect Lilymon and Rosemon. So that means that Mimi's Gesomon will become Captain Hookmon, a kind of charming Digimon, a rapscallion. I think this would fit very well with Mimi. I could see them having really fun adventures together, and I think he would also work quite nicely in episodes like the Gogmamon episode that prominently featured Lilymon. And then finally, it would become Neptunemon. There's not a ton of aquatic Mega Digimon that I think really fit here, other than like Regalicusmon and stuff that we've run into before. I'm gonna stick with Neptunemon. Then moving over to Joe, his Palmon will become Arbamon. My logic is that if any season were to start using Spirit Digimon as more conventional evolutions, it would be Digimon Adventure 2020. We even see Digimon like Strabimon show up. I also think Arbamon works really well as a kind of match to Togemon that Palmon originally became, but has all these marionette elements which I think tie in quite nicely into Joe's personality. He's a know-it-all. While he doesn't have the crest of knowledge, he's very studious. He's the kind of guy I think that would make like model aircraft or little wooden marionettes, if only because it was a class project. Which then, yes, makes the ultimate Petal Dramon. Yes, obviously because it works very well as an Arbamon ultimate, literally being the beast spirit side to Arbamon's human spirits, but also because it kind of reminds me of things like Ikakumon and Zudomon, maybe even a little bit like a plant version of Plesiomon. It's a stretch, but it feels more in the wheelhouse. And then the Mega, and this is very predictable from me, will either be Hydramon or Bloom Lordmon. I personally like Hydramon better. While yes, it is the Hydrusy and has a certain element of it that looks a bit feminine, I guess, I think it works quite nicely as a Mega for Joe, considering that his two contenders for Mega are Plesiomon or Vikemon usually, both big, intimidating creatures. And again, if Petaldramon kind of feels a little bit like that wheelhouse, Hydramon feels like a plant-ish version of a sea creature, I guess. A big land creature. But Bloom Lordmon could also work very well for Joe, being kind of like knightly, senpai feeling. Maybe even Joe in this version could get 2 Megas. He didn't in the original show, but we're changing things anyway. And that brings us to Taichi and Yamato. And I do largely actually like the swaps I made last time. But we begin with Yamato's Agumon becoming Ginryumon. A few people suggested this last time, and I do actually like it a lot. It will make sense even more in a little bit, but let's proceed. That would then of course make Yamato's Agumon become Hisyaryumon at the ultimate level, and finally Oryumon for the Mega. That does mean that we need some kind of Alterous mode equivalent, and of course we don't have mode changes. This isn't a custom art video, sorry. Got a really cool one coming up, stay tuned. I think you could kind of take your pick here. Maybe a Digimon like Gaiumon would work quite well. However, for me, a contender that would work fantastically, but perhaps not chronologically, is Zanmetsumon. I said in the ranking video, I think I'm going to have uses for that Digimon, and this is where I'd like to use it. So of course, this swap would be happening in 2020, theoretically. Chronologically, it doesn't work, but if we're doing a theoretical swap, theoretically, can Zanmetsumon have existed back then? It doesn't matter regardless, because I'm not actually using Zanmetsumon, but I like the concept of Zanmetsumon. Whether the ultimate level for Yamato's Agumon is Hisuiarumon or Zanmetsumon, I would like its mode change to add something of that caliber. A bunch of samurai swords or something. Metal Greymon Ultras mode basically got the railgun that Blue Metal Greymon X antibody had, so I feel like we could just pull from a random X antibody and give it a random weapon. But you're also probably saying, well, wait a minute, there's also the alternate megas. Agumon in Adventure 2020 becomes War Greymon and Blitz Greymon, and I've got you covered, but again, stay with me, because I'm going to give it the alternate mega to Audumon Darkdramon. This adds an element that Audumon doesn't have. Audumon being very blade focused, Darkdramon is a D Brigade member, which is very guns and melee focused, although admittedly it does have a big huge spike. Again, it's not perfect because this isn't a custom art video, but I think Darkdramon and Audumon are two very fun megas for Yamato's Agumon, especially with this kind of like lone wolf persona, but also learning to be part of the group. Darkdramon being kind of like the leader of the D Brigade works very well there. But let's move on to Taichi. Taichi's Gabumon will become Darugamon. Yep, I still love this pick. It turns the wolfy appearing Gabumon, who is actually a reptile underneath, into a furry, again not like that, dragon. It just works too well for me. Then becoming Doryugureimon. While it isn't Greymon species, it's a Greymon species in the dub, so you know, there is that link there, even tenuously, with its Sagittarius mode or Alterous mode equivalent being Death X Doryugureimon inspired. Not literally Death X Doryugureimon, but in the same way that Metal Greymon Alterous mode and where Garurumon Sagittarius mode are inspired by X antibodies, it would be really cool to have Doryugureimon's mode change inspired by Death X Doryugureimon. Just something fun. Before finally the mega being Doryugoramon. But remember how in 2020, when Taichi was like super like angry and Agumon wanted to Digivolve to fight Dundevimon, he sort of dark Digivolved into Machinedramon? Well, in this instance, Agumon's dark Digivolution, if you will, still works for this Digivolution line because it could become the shadow of Death Xmon. Pretty fond of that. Now, as for the Crescarurumon equivalent for Taichi's Gabumon, just stick with me a second. Now, obviously we've got Doryugoramon and we've got Audumon as megas for these two, which means yes, their Jogress instead of Omnimon is going to become Alphamon and Alphamon or Ryuken. I just love that too much, the idea of a alternate universe that switches all the partners around becoming Alphamon, who is the inverse, the switcheroo almost to Omnimon in many ways. And it would still be really cool to see Alphamon and Alphamon or Ryuken fight a Badamon core. So yes, that does bring me to the alternate, the Crescarurumon mega equivalent, and I'm choosing Bancho Leomon. Yes, it doesn't fit extremely well to what we've got here. I mean, sure, it's very different and it kind of ties into the Gabumon line, Garurumon, etc. being more bestial, but I think you've all worked out where I'm going now. Yes, with Yamato's Agumon having a Darkdramon alternate mega and Taichi's Gabumon having a Bancho Leomon alternate mega, instead of transforming into a Megamon Alteress in the final battle, they're going to transform into Chaosmon. Oh no, I just think that's pretty cool. Imagine seeing Alphamon, Alphamon or Ryuken, and Chaosmon all in the final battle of an adventure anime. Be pretty cool. Alright, and then finally is Takeru and Hikari, who of course are switching, the two angels if you will. Takeru would get Salamon because of course his partner is by default a rookie, unlike Hikari's who by default is a champion with Gatomon. But I will still have Takeru Salamon become Gatomon because it is at the end of the day Hikari's default partner. Originally Takeru's Patamon did become Pegasusmon as its kind of armor form, but technically the armor forms in 2020 are not traditional armor Digivolution. They're going with question mark because they want to use the armor Digimon, but they're not using them in traditional armor roles. So for Takeru's Gatomon, I am going to give her Nefertimon. It just works too well and fulfills that flying Digimon role that Takeru needed for the arc in Digimon Adventure 2020. Pegasusmon basically acting as like a vehicle at that point, while it kind of healed and learned how to become Angemon, or I guess in this case, while Salamon healed and learned how to become Gatomon again. And yes, it's not the right crest, it's the crest of light, not the crest of hope, but again, does it really matter in this instance so much? Then for the ultimate, I'm going to throw it on your head. You might be expecting Angelwomon or something crazy that I've done in the past. I am going to go with May Crackmon, whose Mega will be Racielmon, because Racielmon is one of the holy Digimon in Adventure 2020 that we never really got to see outside of that context as a holy Digimon. So this brings it full circle. Takeru's Gatomon gets to become a Racielmon. And I know some people aren't fond of Try, me included, but I think that's a really cool use for this Digimon. And then I will still keep the Mega 2, the alternate Mega, as Holy Dramon. I did consider also saying at this point that a Fanimon could be the alternate, but I think Racielmon is probably the more humanoid, even though it is a little bit bestial. So we're going to keep Holy Dramon as the other Mega for that Millenniummon fight. Then moving over to Hikari, her Patamon is also interesting. In her story in 2020, her partner was kind of corrupted by darkness, transformed into / residing inside of a Skull Knightmon. In this instance then, the switcheroo would be, I guess, that Patamon is residing within Devimon, which would have huge implications for the show. Would that then mean that Skull Knightmon is kind of one of the major antagonists of the first part of the series, becoming Dark Knightmon and then, you know, Death Xmon or something beyond there, Dark Knightmon X or something? Regardless, that Skull Knightmon and Dark Knightmon equivalent would be Devimon and Neo Devimon in this case. So yes, this does fundamentally change a huge part of the show, but also like not really. I can very easily see Devimon and Neo Devimon doing the things that Skull Knightmon and Dark Knightmon did, and I can very easily see Skull Knightmon and Dark Knightmon doing that like I'm your friend, I'm your enemy thing with Takeru and his Gatomon / Salamon. Then for the champion, the purified, the true version of Hikari's Patamon's adult / champion form, I have chosen Darkmon. I've used it for Hikari before, but I think it works nicely, ties back into the Angemon idea, but inserts some femininity, but similarly to how I did with previous Digimon on this list, I don't want it to commit to being like fully feminine because it is still ultimately kind of a masculine Digimon under all. So I think Holy Angemon Priest Mode will be really fun as the ultimate, using it properly this time, not just as a little reference, a little wink at the camera during a Digivolution. I'd love to see Priest Mode get a full outing. I'm always going to be a V-Tamer bitch at heart. And then the Mega will be Clavis Angemon, another one of the holy Digimon we saw in Adventure 2020. It just works so well. I'm so pleased with that idea of using Racielmon and Clavis Angemon, who are holy Digimon in the original show, and bringing them into evolution lines of the Chosen Children. So fun. And then, yeah, of course, the other Mega will be Godramon, to again tie into that Millenniummon fight with Godramon and Holy Dramon. So that is it, my picks for partner swap specifically for Digimon Adventure 2020. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I had a lot of fun with this one. Hunter helped me too, so that was a ton of fun. Really like the picks on this, and I think ties in a little bit more into the narrative of the show than I've done before, so I really like that. But let me know your picks in the comments down below. If you think Chaosmon's a little bit of a reach, I understand. Huge shout out to my Sovereigns, ZDK14 and Jmon, and huge shout out to all my Digidestin, Tamers, and Karn Club for supporting this channel with their hard-earned money. Check out the video below me because it is one that YouTube knows you will love from my channel, and I'll see you next time when we go digital. Bye bye.